Blog Talk Radio. Chatting with Nat is a podcast for independent women seeking to speak their truth and to break down barriers. We host honest conversations that help to guide and empower women. Speak your truth and set yourself free. Let your voice be heard. Hi everyone, it's Chatting with Nat, and I'm Natalie Jean, and today we have the honor of having singer-songwriter Carmel Paradise. Carmel Paradise is a singer-songwriter who grew up in a small village outside of Bratislava, Slovakia. I hope I said that right because I tried. She has experimented with various genres of music, releasing the pop-punk album Made of Matches with her band, The House United, as well as an electronica-pop EP, Dreamgirl. Currently based in Connecticut, she is working on her debut solo album. Let's give her a round of applause. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
I hope I didn't butcher your village's name.
No, you're all good. It's not easy.
No, that was not easy. Not at all. So, how have you been?
I've been good. I'm sort of settling in. I just moved to Connecticut, so lots of exploration, just figuring things out.
So, the past 3 years have been kind of cray-cray. Not kind of. They've just been that way. It's just...
Definitely.
Woo! Every morning I wake up, I'm like, did I really live through that? Am I really living through what's in this world? So the question for you is this. How have you been during this, let's see, elections, George Floyd situation, Roe versus Wade, monkeypox, COVID had some babies, flu, now there's RSV, I said polio's trying to make a comeback.
Oh boy.
Tsunamis, earthquakes, assassinations. Have you been through all of this mess?
I just kind of watching it all unfold, I guess. I was in Europe for most of the last couple years, and just kind of in my little town, watching things happen, and obviously it's very surreal at some points. One of the biggest things location-wise was the invasion of Ukraine, right? Because Ukraine borders Slovakia, so they're right next door, basically. So that was a big thing. We had a lot of refugees coming in. A lot of my friends who had the space were sort of signing up to take people in. So that was definitely like one of the most, present things that happened for me over the last couple of years.
That's huge. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Ukraine, Russia. Oof. I don't know. Sometimes I just don't understand how a person can be so cold and evil. The things that have transpired during this Ukraine war. It's just disgusting. And
yeah,
it's hard to sit back and watch that. And not being able to do anything about it. You just sit there and you're just like, it's just very sad. Now, obviously, the past 3 years have been something else. So I'd like to ask this question. One of the things, I give a little story, I saw during the pandemic, obviously people died, obviously.
Right.
People lost limbs, actually. People survived, lost limbs. People have long-term COVID. But there was pros to being locked down for about a year, believe it or not. I always say this, I saw families walking together, which is not supposed to be odd, but I think people are are more into the fast-paced lifestyle, at least where I live. I know that I had colleagues that said, "Oh my gosh, I need to cut back on work because I realized that I'm missing a lot in my family's lives." Climate change, my God, the animals out there were just like, and the trees were just like, I hope they don't come back because the pollution level actually went down when we were not
Right.
in the universe. So many people, so many articles about people quitting their job because what the pandemic did, is it allowed for a lot of self-reflection. And a lot of
For
people,
sure.
you know what I mean? They decided, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I need to make money, but I need to be happy. I need to fulfill my dreams, my passion, my mission out there. So a lot of people quit their jobs and started doing what they really love to do. They wanted to smile when they got into work. And
Yeah.
then there's just like you and I. Some people
Yeah.
decided to do brand. Some people did an EP, album, track, single. Some people decided, no, I'm not doing this music thing anymore. It's just too much. So
Yeah.
during this time, did you have any self-introspection in regards to your life with music? Is there anything that you wanted to change? Is there anything that you're just like, oh no, I'm all good. I'm just gonna do it the way that I'm doing it.
Well, I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, definitely a time for self-reflection with a lot of things, I think. Also because my sister is in the entertainment industry as well, and she was pretty much working full-time as a musician when COVID hit, and, she was touring full-time. And so, that was, I think, also really scary to see,
Right.
like, basically all of your work immediately canceled and all of your
Right.
income just completely like shut out, right? So that was definitely a little bit of like a wake up call for both of us of kind of like trying to get our head on straight and be like, okay, what do we do? What do we do next? For me, it was a little bit easier. I was still in school and I was studying online. So it was all just kind of like, while everybody was struggling to transition to online classes, I was already like, nah, I got this. I've been doing this for a while. So that was one good side. But I think with music and it was almost kind of nice to be shut in because, in trying to be productive and trying not to waste time, I ended up writing a lot more. I tend to write a lot in the first place, but of course having that extra time of, well, it's not like you can go out, so you might as well sit down at the piano and put something together, right? So in that regard, it was good. I think it definitely sort of pushed me to create more. And I guess gave me that extra time inside in order to do that.
I actually, that first year, I couldn't creativity. My creative juices were not flowing. I just could, I couldn't care less about music. I was just like, oh my God, there's nothing flowing through me. And I did get COVID. I actually had it twice. I think I've had it 3 times, but, and I've been vaxxed and boosted and shot up and all that stuff. But,
yeah,
I was there just a period where I was just like, no, I'm not in the mood for this. And then the following year in 2021, I got my juices flowing and released like 7 singles back to back, which I will never do again because that's too much promo. And people are just like, oh my gosh, why didn't you just make an album? And I said, because they all don't go together. I'm like a theme writer. I don't just throw songs together. You know what I mean? You just don't throw songs together and say, oh, here I have an album. No, that's not what I did.
Yeah. I totally get it.
But I was like you in the sense that I wasn't writing, but I did a lot of courses. Like I took all these conferences, these webinars on music, and I took a webinar. Actually, it was called Cat TikTok University. So I learned a lot about. Yeah, I learned a lot about TikTok.
Yeah.
They say that we need to do 5 videos a day. Now I tried that because I think it's ridiculous, but I tried that, and it's just, what do you really say? I mean, there's plenty to say.
That's my question. Is like, I don't like people are like, okay, well, you got to be active on social media, and I'm like, yeah, but what? Like, I don't have that many ideas. Like, there's not much I do in the day. I live kind of a boring life,
Well, it was interesting because I would try to come up with ideas, and I would watch things and say, okay, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that, and then it would flip. But after a while, it is really hard. If you have a life, it is really hard to do 5 videos a day. And I try to do 1 once a week, and even sometimes I can't even do that. And it's just
Yeah.
like, okay, I get it. People want to see us, but one thing that I learned about the social media aspect of things, especially TikTok, is that the videos that do the best are the ones where you're very authentic. Okay, because when
Mhm.
people look at that, they're like, oh my god, I could do that too. They like to see things where they can actually do the same thing that you're doing. Like, they like to watch the mainstream artists. That's great, but it's not as fun as when you just see regular people just either doing stupid stuff or where you learn
Yeah.
something from it, or somebody just being real. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So,
for sure.
how important is it for you to be authentic, in your music, in your life?
Oh yeah, like really important. I think because for me, like the style of writing that I've always done is sort of a, almost kind of a sort of a storyteller type of
Okay.
writing, and it's almost like journaling for me,
Right.
and so all of my music is deeply personal, and I think that that's sort of what I like. To me, that's definitely one of what I think is like a strength,
Hmm.
is sort of being able to be authentic in your music, and so that's definitely a big thing to me. And I think also, sometimes it's one of those things where I feel like lying, like not necessarily lying, um, but just sort of like being able to sort of masquerade, which is a skill in and of itself,
Hmm.
and definitely useful in a lot of like aspects of life. But I think it's one of those things that you have to be like practice at to be good at, and I'm just out of practice.
No.
So I really struggle with sort of like uh, with sort of putting on that kind of mask. And so, I mean, obviously, part of it is I do value being authentic, but another part of it is just I don't really know how to be anything else.
Right.
Um, you know, so I mean, it's one of those things where um, it's at least in my music, I feel like even if people don't like what I'm putting out, you're never going to please everyone.
Exactly.
I don't feel like like compromised on my own like personal integrity to create something for somebody else, if that makes sense.
No, that completely makes sense. Now, how did you get into the music industry? Did you come out of the womb and you're just like, I'm all about the music, or was it something that you heard, you saw? What made you decide to get into the music industry?
Well, my sister came out of the womb interested in music, like
Yeah.
4 months old, and she was into it. But for me, it was more like I was a little bit. I mean, I was still a kid, but me and my sister were both really into music as kids, and so our parents were really supportive. They enrolled us in like piano classes, singing classes, whatever, and we started writing at a young age too. I mean, like 9 or 10, we started writing songs. They were not any good, but we started. And so so that's always been like a big, for me it was always like I was always more focused on the writing part of music, whereas my sister was more of a performer. But of course both of us did both performing and writing, right? Um so it is kind of, from childhood it's always been a very big thing for me. I think that, your sense of identity really changes as you grow, and well into adulthood it changes, right? And so I think that, throughout all the phases that I've gone through, and all the different things I felt like I really identified with, and as they've changed, the one thing that has remained really consistent, and the one thing that I've always really strongly identified myself with, is being a writer, and specifically being a songwriter. And so that's something that's definitely been with me my whole life.
Awesome sauce. Now, you say you're singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred? I mean, it could be a singer-songwriter in any genre. Do you have a preferred type of genre that you like to do, or do you do your own thing?
It's weird because generally it's kind of the same with how I listen to music. I don't listen to music because it's a specific genre. I just like to listen to songs and then like whatever genre it is, if I like the song, then I like it, And for me, of course, as a lyricist, like I do really value good lyrics. So even if it's a genre that maybe I don't listen to a lot, if I can still really appreciate well-written lyrics. So when it comes to creating my own music, I have a great interest in sort of experimenting with a lot of genres. I really, really enjoyed doing sort of like that pop punk thing when I was a teenager. That was always really fun. I'd love to return to it one day. Pop has also been really fun because it's sort of experimentative and we're trying different things and different sounds. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place because I don't want to sort of tie myself down to anything and feel like I'm restricted in any way. Right now, I'm doing pop because that's what feels right, and that's what I've been writing, just not on purpose, but that's just basically been what's coming out. And so for now, I'm happy to go with that. But I think if my writing changes, if I sort of naturally transition to something else, I'm just going to go with it.
Now, are you strict with your writing in the sense of do you follow the protocols of, some people just they're like sticklers. They're like, okay, I'm going to do verse, and then there's going to be a chorus, and then I'll do verse, and the bridge, and the chorus. Are you a stickler to that, or do you like to experiment in that way with your lyrics? Do you do it maybe different?
I didn't know there was a structure that you were supposed to stick to. But I think it's more of like I follow my own pattern just based on like what's habit, but I don't like consciously do it. It's just more of an automatic thing because of like it's just sort of something that I've always done. So I typically start like if I usually collect ideas. So like if I randomly have an idea for a line or just an idea for a theme of a song, I'll put it all. I've got my notes app is full of them. And sometimes, like, if I really feel like writing a song, I'll kind of go through it and I'll be like, all right, what's standing out to me the most? And then I'll kind of play around with some melodies. And if it feels like it's going to start with a verse, then it starts with a verse. If it feels like it's more of a chorus, then it's a chorus. And just kind of go from there. So I usually kind of start with one little seed and see what happens. So it usually ends up starting with a verse. And then, but it's just I think that's just more of like a habit than anything.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is because, there's certain genres that are stickler for format. Like jazz is one. Pop is another. Country, my God, if you can't use the same word twice. You have to rhyme this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I oftentimes, when I started writing, I was doing the verse, and chorus, verse, bridge, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And then I'm like, why am I writing like this? And then I started to write more like a poem and just doing the way that I want to, writing the way that I rather than trying to stick to this certain format because I felt restricted by doing that. What I'm trying to do in life is, how there's all these NFTs out there, which is, I think, is beautiful. But I really want to push the idea that music is an art form because somebody paints or draws. Nobody goes to that painting and says, well, why didn't they put a dash of yellow or blue or whatever? And the stencil is so wrong here. They don't do that. But so apt to criticize music. And look, music is subjective, just like art is. But it is not criticized as much. It's like, no, you're supposed to do it this way. No, I don't think it should be in this genre. No, which is just ridiculous. I wish that we, as a society, could just, listen to music and just see the artistic viewpoint about the music, the musicianship, or even the lyrics themselves. Because, some things can be just so mundane. It's like, when you listen to the radio, it's always the same songs to me. It's just the same all over again. There's nothing that's like new where you're just like, oh, wait a minute, that sounds very interesting. And I've been to conferences where they're like, okay, if you're a lyricist and you're writing a song for Rihanna or whoever, they're like, don't give me something she's done, give me something she hasn't done. But 9 times out of 10, they're still playing the same stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I think music as a whole really needs to start evolving.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's also a nature of music being seen as a business as opposed to an
Right.
art, right? I think that's the
Right.
nature of it, because then it changes from being a work of art to being a product.
Right.
And, as soon as you start seeing it as a product, then you want to just manufacture it. You want to just pump them out one after another, right? And so then it becomes more like, okay, we're just kind of like manufacturing basically the same thing over and over again because it sells, right? Which I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Like, if that's what you're doing and if that's what people like enjoy, then that's fine. But I think that kind of oversaturating the market with that can be a little bit tough for people who still really want to make music in terms of like expressing their art, right? And not to say one is better than the other, it's not to be sort of snobby about it, but it's just, I think it's just a different approach to music, right? There's a business approach and there's an art approach, and I think there should be room for both in the industry.
Now, what do you think about people that write about the times? Like, I'm a social impact writer. I write about everything. Some artists, I don't want to put politics, this, that, and the other. But see, that's where authenticity comes into play for me. If somebody's going to like me as an artist, they have to like all of me. I mean, you're not going to agree with everything that I believe in. That's just normal. But I'm not trying to be something that I'm not either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that, back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, people used to write and sing about the times all the time. And it wasn't as big a deal as it is now. Now some people are just like, no, you don't want to do that. You'll alienate your fans. But if your fans really understand who you are, they're not going to leave you. They may disagree with you, but they're not going to say, oh, my gosh, I can't listen to her anymore. What do you think about that, in terms of writing about what's going on in the world?
Yeah, like you said, it's all about that authenticity. When I was writing as a teenager, a lot of times my mom was sort of like, oh, why are you always writing love songs kind of thing, right? Like, why don't you write about something, like something that's going on? Because I was very, like, politically interested as a kid as well. So she was like, you're so passionate about all these things. Why don't you write about them? And I was saying, like, it's not that I obviously I care about these things, but sometimes it doesn't, like, I would try to write something and it would just come out sounding so forced and so fake. And I was like, this is not authentic because I tried too hard, And so it does all go back to that authenticity. It's if I were able to express my passion for certain, like, things in that way, I really would love to, and not to say that not to say that I don't. I write about my experiences with depression a lot. I'm really active in the mental health field, and that is a big, like, interest of mine. And so I do write about that, but some things don't come as naturally, right? And so I think it's one of those things where, I get really annoyed when people are like, oh, you're just a musician, don't get political. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Music has been political from the beginning of time, music is art, and art has always been, an expression of humanity, and humanity involves a lot of things. It involves politics, it involves social interest, it involves justice, and so I think that's another sort of side effect of music being seen as like a product, as a business, because then you're like, stick to your field, right? Stick to just this music thing. Don't get involved in politics. But in reality, when you're thinking about it as an art form and an expression, those things have long been associated with, historical, political commentary, right? And so I really, really admire when people are able to, like, write politically well, because I can't, you know what I mean? Like, it's something I really admire and I'm very jealous of too. I don't know if it's really your style of music. I don't really know what you like to listen to, but I really love Grandson. He writes a lot of political stuff, and I find it really engaging because he really, like, pushes the boundaries, and he really makes you think, and the lyrics are very, like, intense. And I think that's what political music is supposed to do. It's supposed to really like shake you.
That's right.
So yeah, I love that kind of music. Wish I was better at it. Wish it was something I was good at. But yeah, I also think it's one of those things where if musicians want to, get active in politics in any way, they want to express their beliefs, I think that that's something that should be normal. You know, they're public figures. They're allowed to talk about what they want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always baffled. You know, some people get upset, you know, when you watch the Oscars, Emmys, or Grammys, or whatever the case may be, and, you know, an artist comes up and they become political, and a lot of people are just like, oh, they don't need to talk about that. They have money, this and that. But the thing is, a lot of these artists know about struggle. A lot of them were homeless at certain points, you know, and they live in the United States. I'm always baffled at the fact that, like, oh, they need to stay out of politics, but they live in this country. You think they just should sit down and shut up and not say anything? That part really it just baffles me. I never.
No, I totally get it. And it's also one of those things where it's like, you know, a lot of people who are struggling and who don't have a voice can't stand up for what they need and what they believe in, because again, their voice is being stripped of them. So it's actually, if somebody has the privilege to be able to, you know, talk and be listened to, somebody who has a platform, I think it's actually beneficial for them to talk about it, right? Because, you know, not all of us have the time, the money, the audience. And so, you know, bringing something to the attention is a huge deal. I don't know if you remember, but I think way back in, don't quote me on this, I think it was 2018, the midterms. I honestly can't remember, but it was like one of the first times Taylor Swift sort of talked about politics, and she advocated, you know, she kind of like put her support behind the Democrat candidate. Yeah. And I think it was like 65,000 people registered to vote after this, you know, in Tennessee. And that's huge. I mean, 65,000 people registering to vote. I mean, again, don't quote me on it because I'm just pulling the number from my memory. But I know it was like a huge number of people registered to vote because of her support. And I'm like, regardless of who they vote for, that's a great thing. That's encouraging civic engagement, right? So yeah, I think it's, you know, I think this idea of, oh, you're just a musician, stick to music, is just a denial of the complex nature of human beings, right? Like, we're all multifaceted. We're all individuals with a lot of elements and a lot of context.
That's 100% true. Now, what do you love most about being an artist?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to sort of pinpoint one thing. I think what I really love is that it gives me this sort of cathartic release of being able to sort of express myself in this very clear way, and create something, right? Because, you know, so, like, I also journal, and it's like, it's nice to put stuff down in a journal, makes me feel good, and you know, like, sort of, it is sort of a release of tension. But being able to create something that you can be proud of and sort of show off a little bit, like making art out of it, there's something really satisfying about, you know, creation and the act of creation. And so I think that would probably be it, just being able to, you know, participate in this beautiful, like, very human act of creation. And being able to also, like, really put myself into it. Like, earlier we were talking about authenticity and sort of being able to, you know, like, I love to be able to sort of put myself into a song, and then when someone hears it, I'm like, here's part of my story in 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah. No, I completely get that. You sent me a song that I'm going to play.
All right.
It's your favorite color. Tell me what that's about.
Yeah, so this is actually an unreleased song. So this is like, you know, first listen, very exclusive. But yeah, so I'm actually, like I said, I'm working on my first album, and it is a concept album, themed album. And basically the entire album is about sort of the experience of falling in love when you're young, specifically when you're, you know, a teenager, and the way that kind of can cause, like, ripple effects through the rest of your life. So that's pretty much what the whole album and what the song is about.
All right, let's play it.
City lights from a high rise, leaves from an oak tree, coffee on Church Street, slow kisses on a park bench, acting like we're just friends. This will kill me when it ends. You say the stars are overrated and New Yorkers are all jaded, and your overpriced jeans made of colors. Warm weather and warm weather. I never thought we'd mess up being together slow. Afternoons in your car, I let down on my guard. Didn't think it'd be this hard. You said you never really loved me. Still don't know how much that crushed me. You only wanted me to keep you warm on lonely nights. You only talk to me when you're in need of my advice. You only listen to my problems after I've recovered. You only water me when my flowers bloom in your favorite. You only like that I distracted you from all your pain. You said you're sorry, but my life will never be the same. You don't even consider me a past lover. You only water me when my flowers bloom in your favorite color. A past lover, just a number. Your favorite color. Favorite color. You only wanted me to keep you warm on lonely nights. You only talk to me when you're in need of my advice. You only listen to my problems after I've recovered. You only water me when my flowers bloom in your favorite. You only like that I distracted you from all your pain. You said you're sorry, but my life will never be the same. You don't even consider me a past lover. You only water me when my flowers bloom in your favorite color.
I love it.
Thank you.
I mean, I love that. I mean, I was trying to sing along.
It you catch on pretty quick.
It's definitely catchy.
Thank you.
I do like it, and the funny thing is, actually reminded me of Taylor Swift.
Oh, really?
Taylor
That's a huge compliment to me, so I will take it.
esque. While I was listening to it, I felt like I could see it in a movie.
Mhm.
Is a good thing, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, with musical career, do you want to get into sync and licensing? I know you're going to release your first album, but streaming doesn't pay the bills because they don't pay.
Oh
the
yeah.
bills.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
Mhm.
It's also kind of one of those things because I primarily consider myself a writer. Being able to do something
Right.
with publishing, writing for others, syncing with movies, TV, all that kind of stuff. Definitely a priority for me.
Cool.
It's all that kind of stuff that you got to try and get your foot in the door and see what you can find, right?
Yep, that's so true. Now you also do modeling.
I did for a while, yeah. I'm considered a little bit old for it now because you age
Really?
out real quick. Yeah, for a lot of I did some runway modeling. I'm a little too short for most runway modeling. Most of the girls, at least we're in Slovakia where I was. I don't know if it's the same here. It might be different. But yeah, most of the girls I worked with when I was about 21, they were 14, 16. Kind of the oldest ones were also 21 like me. And now I'm almost 25, so it's a little bit there's always young, new, beautiful girls, and
Yeah.
I do kind of have some issues with the beauty industry and the fashion industry. So it did feel sort of like one of those things where I don't know if it would feel I don't know if I would feel proud of doing that. Not to say that all modeling is bad. Obviously, there's so much variety in the field, and there's so much really fascinating work. But at least specifically the kind of work that I was getting into, I just felt a little bit like it wasn't really authentic to me anymore.
Okay.
So I never really pursued it to a higher degree.
I completely understand. Now, what are you working on now? Now you're working on your new album. How many songs do you think will be on this new album?
Probably around 12. Kind of a standard album. I haven't fully narrowed it down. We're still working, but yeah, I think that'll probably be what it ends up being.
Now, have you decided how you're going to promote the album, market it? Because here's the thing, once you decide to do the album, then the whole promotional thing, that's the part that I hate the most. I gotta say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough. It's also one of those things where you need to have not necessarily a team, but at least a couple good people to work with and a couple good contacts, and these are the things that are sort of really important to find. So when it comes to promotion of the album, I will probably do some promotion back in Slovakia, just because I have a little bit more of a presence in the entertainment industry over there. So that's probably how I'll start out. I only really recently relocated to the U.S., and obviously it's a much, much bigger and more saturated market. So it's sort of a one step at a time kind of approach I'm taking. I'm still sort of networking a bit, meeting people. I'm pretty close to New York, which is really nice because obviously there's a lot going on. So it's there's a lot to do. Lots of people to talk to. Lots of sort of ways to go about it. I think that we'll see how it goes.
Now, what are 3 things you wish you had known before you got into the music industry?
Oh. It's kind of funny because my sister, she's older than me, and she got into the entertainment industry really young. And so a lot of things, when I was younger, I had, all these dreams of like, I want to be a big, I never really wanted to be famous, but I wanted to be touring and, putting out music all the time and all that kind of stuff. And watching her go through that, and even if it was in sort of the smaller, market of Slovakia and the Czech Republic, a lot of it is just not what it seems, right? And she loved music. I mean, she still does. She's still a musician, And so watching her go into the industry, all of the amazing experiences she had, as well as all the really, really difficult experiences she had, they kind of really were almost like a lesson for me. It was almost like I got to just watch her go through what I was thinking about going through ahead of me, That's kind of what older siblings do in general, right? They kind of like deal with all that stuff before you. And so it was kind of like, obviously, when I was young, I didn't really know anything about the industry. I was just kind of like, we'll see, I just want to do music. You just have this idea of like, I just want to perform, but there's so much more to it than that, right? And I think one of the toughest things for me was really dealing with the idea of not a significant amount of it is based on your talent. A much more significant amount is based on your appearance and your wealth and your luck, right? And your opportunities and your contacts and all these kinds of things, And and I think especially for women, the ever-present focus on your appearance and sort of adhering to this very strict ideal of how you're supposed to look. These are things that are, they're really the dark side of the industry. And, seeing the way people responded to my sister, seeing the way that, tabloids ripped her up for everything, it analyzed her weight, analyzed her figure, analyzed, who she went out with, analyzed all these kinds of things, and sort of reduced it to a very shallow thing, sort of really turned me off the idea of being like a public figure, right? That's the thing with music is technically, if you want to be really successful in like popular music, that comes with a certain amount of like being in the public sphere.
Right.
Because like basically becoming a celebrity is a sign of success in this field. But I think that there's so many parts of that are really really difficult and really hard to deal with. So I think that was the biggest thing that I sort of learned along the way.
Yeah. This business, and I think a lot of times people think, oh, I'm just going to go into music and I'm going to be famous. And they don't understand all the hard work. I mean, there's so much work that needs to be done in this music industry, and it's just crazy. It's crazy hard, and it's different now. Like back in the day, you could go into radio station, I mean, really back in the day, and bring your little 40 little record and say, can you play it? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to play it. Here it's pay to play.
Yeah.
Now you have to see if your music will work on social media, on these different apps.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, people didn't have that. There's way more pressure to try to get your song to go viral on these social media apps.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
definitely.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I tried to get my songs to go viral, and people have used them, but it's way more work. And like you were right when you mentioned, it's great if you can afford to have a team or a team that will work for free and help you out and do all because they're like, oh, you gotta post on Twitter, you gotta post on Instagram, you gotta post on Facebook, you gotta post on Clubhouse, you gotta post on TikTok, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and there are only 24 hours in a day.
Oh yeah, and also there's a real like lack of privacy when you do this, because it's not enough to just post your music, right? People want to know about you. It's not just about your music. They want the sort of the personality as well. And I get that impulse. I totally feel the same way with in regards to the artists that I really like. But it's like a very big commitment, right? To be like, how much of my private life am I willing to give up in pursuit of my goals in music, right?
Exactly. But the thing, people, I don't think people should invade so much of your privacy. But when you decide to become an artist and you want to, garner attention, your life becomes not your own. It's sad, but people want to get to know you. They want to invade that life, and I think you give a little. You don't have to give so much. But
yeah, and I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think people really want to invade. I think people are just naturally curious because we want to connect with our artists. We love their art, so we want to connect with them as people. I think that's a very, very normal thing. But then when you're on the side of the artist, you have to be like, well, okay, I want to be authentic. I want to show myself, but I also want to keep a little bit of myself to myself, right? And sort of be able to have a little bit of your life that just remains yours, So it's a difficult line, right? It's one of those things where you have to sort of find the happy medium ground, which is hard to find.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't go into the music industry blind.
Definitely not. Yeah.
You have to be aware of. You have to be able to draw the line, and you have to be aware of the things that people can say, and you definitely have to have an armor on you, and not care what people think. You need to be able to do your thing. That's the bottom line with the music industry. Obviously it's an industry where you kind of have to care, if somebody likes your songs or not. But on the other line, I'm like, I just don't care. I do music. I create music to make a difference, right? And I know that music's subjective. Some people are going to like it, some people are not. If one person likes it, I've done my job. That's the way I look at music now.
Definitely, yeah.
It's just a crazy, 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 crazy business. I mean, if you really want to be in the music business, you've got to love it. Because the stuff that we all go through in this music industry, it's just too much. It's too much, trying to get paid on these streaming platforms and trying to book a gig, and sometimes they don't want to pay you what you're worth, and can you sing for free? No. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm worth more than that. Sorry, can't do it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
that's
definitely.
that. Well, Carmel, thank you for being on Chatting with Nat. It was my honor. I love the song, by the way.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. It was great to be here.
I can't wait to hear your songs in some movies, documentaries, something, because I'm sure they will be, because you I can already hear it. It's just fantastic.
Thank you. I really hope you're right.
Fingers crossed, but I think I will be. I think I will
Okay.
be. Yes. So you have an awesome, awesome night, and thank you so much. Now, everybody, you got to follow her. She's on www.carmelparadise.com, Instagram.com, Carmel Paradise. And if you don't remember that, you can Google. Google is your friend. You can find so many people on Google, but you can find Carmel Paradise. Until next time on Chatting with Nat. Thank you, Carmel.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Chatting with Nat is a podcast for independent women seeking to speak their truth and to break down barriers. We host honest conversations that help to guide and empower women. Speak your truth and set yourself free. Let your voice be heard.